Pretty crazy it's taken this long, but it's finally time to talk about a skeleton. Hi, I'm ReveloGM and welcome to 2026! Happy New Year! And welcome back to Meet the Monster, where we look at creatures from Pathfinder 2nd edition and find out what makes them tick, what makes them unique, and how we can use them in our games. This week we are taking a look at the Skeleton Guard, another level -1 creature with the undead, unholy and minus traits, though this guy is medium size, unlike the Crawling Hand. We're dealing with a whole body this time. Monster Core doesn't have too much to say about the Skeleton Guard, which is fair, there's a lot of skeletons to cover. The most common skeletal minions are mere guardians, which, yeah, that makes sense. For a little more information on Skeleton Undead we get this. The necromantic energies that infuse animated undead skeletons give them the ability to see without eyes and move without muscles. Despite being mindless, skeletons' instinct to do evil comes from their corrupt vital essence, perverting void energy for creation rather than destruction. So there we go, due to them being animated via void, they are destructive rather than creative, or something along those lines. Now most people are going to know the basics of a skeleton, especially if you have any clerics in your party, but for recalling knowledge purposes we have our usual set of checks. Recall knowledge this time is a religion undead for DC 13, unspecific lore DC 11, and specific lore at DC 8. And as we mentioned, we have quite a few traits attached to the Skeleton Guard, medium size, as well as mindless, undead, and unholy. Oh, and skeleton of course. Skeleton is purely just for, well, this is a skeleton. Mindless relates to the mental faculties of the creature, or rather the lack of them. They almost always will have no better than -5 in their mental attribute mods, but on the plus side for them they cannot be affected by mental effects, that's actions such as demoralize and spells that are similar to that. Undead relates to the infusion of void energy, being destroyed at 0 hit points and being damaged by vitality energy. Unholy pertains rather to the fact that they are undead, meaning they are more likely to be affected by holy damage. Check out my Crawling Hand video for a little more information about those two, because there are some distinct differences. Skeletons have dark vision. No eyes in a traditional sense probably helps here, but only have a +2 perception, which is low for level -1. So they aren't the best to actually put on guard duty, or at least not unless there are large hordes of them, or with a less mindless undead minion perhaps there to help them out. And better believe they need another undead to do any communicating, as they can't understand or communicate in any language. Just vibes, I guess. Skeletons have training in acrobatics and athletics, which I guess makes some degree of sense for them as guards. Acrobatics is at a +6, which is between high and extreme at level -1, and makes sense considering how much lighter they must be, without skin and muscles and everything to weigh them down. This could be useful for skeletons to use the tumble through action, maybe allowing them to kind of clatter themselves past you and flank better with their allies, and is giving me Bone Wheel flashbacks now. Thanks Dark Souls. Athletics is low to moderate at a +3 in comparison, again probably from losing all their muscle and weight, but means they are able to attempt to grapple and do things like that, which can still be dangerous in a horde situation or against a suitably weak target. Speaking of suitably weak, this is why I ask you to subscribe. See, I told you. Skeletons move at the same speed as most, 25 feet. And they have the following attribute modifiers: a +2 to strength, a +4 to dex, con at 0, intelligence at -5, wisdom at 0, charisma at 0. On to defences then. Skeletons have an AC of 16, which is solid at their level, above high and pushing towards extreme. Their HP, however, low. Below low even. Low is 5 to 6 hit points and they have 4 HP. Yikes. We'll circle back to that. For saves, they have a low fortitude and will save at +2 apiece, but they have a high reflex save at a +8. Usually at this level that's it, but much like the Crawling Hand, we aren't quite done for defences. Skeletons are undead, so they have a few immunities as well, even more than the hand in fact, as they have no flesh or blood either. So bleed, death effects, disease, mental, paralysed, poison, unconscious, none of these work on a skeleton. So sleep spells, poisons, intimidation, bleeding, all out the window. And we aren't done. They have resistances as well: cold 5, electricity 5, fire 5, piercing 5, slashing 5. That 5 means unless you do over 5 points of damage with one of these types of damage, the skeleton takes no damage at all. Eek. Now you can see why the hit points are so low. The resistances are artificially bolstering them. So low level characters can't do as much damage, and spells with elemental properties are going to be weaker. Hence why clerics are often known for bludgeoning weapons. To be fair, not always, and certainly not in Pathfinder, but this is a valid reason for it, as bludgeoning is not resisted. Thunder and other damage types work too, but bludgeoning is the easiest to get your hands on. We also need to talk about their void healing. As skeletons are healed by void damage, this means they are damaged by vitality damage attacks, which is things like the heal spell. Another way clerics can be very effective. The AoE burst heal a cleric can do while fighting other living beings is risky as it heals everyone, but not so much when fighting undead. It heals your allies and damages your foes at the same time. So that is their other large flaw. You can see how this makes skeletons scary to a village though, right? Villagers with daggers and spears or the farm tool equivalents with no real attack or damage modifiers, if they can even manage to hit one of these skeletons, they're not going to deal enough damage to really get through to their hit points. And if they do, maybe only deal 1 or 2, let alone destroy one. For adventurers, less of a challenge, I'm sure. Next, we're on to offense. We have some equipment to discuss here. They have a scimitar and a short bow of 20 arrows as standard, and they can also make a claw attack. But hey, good news, you can exchange those items for others. Just a little more work to mix things up, which, we'll return to later. So all the weapons are +6 to attack, which is average for level -1, just with different traits and damage profiles. Oh, and the short bow has range, of course. The scimitar deals 1d6 +2 slashing damage and has the forceful and sweep traits, both of which are based on follow-up attacks. Forceful means this weapon becomes more dangerous when you build momentum. When you attack with it more than once on your turn, the second attack gains a circumstance bonus to damage equal to the number of weapon damage dice, and each later attack gains a circumstance bonus equal to double the number of damage dice, which is just going to be +1 and +2 for a skeleton. And sweep means the weapon makes wide swinging attacks, and when you attack with this weapon you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to your attack roll if you already attempted to attack a different target this turn. Now that being said, as follow-up attacks are unlikely to hit anything on a +1 and a -4, at least without some flanking and other shenanigans. But again, these are just skeletons, they aren't going to be decked out with the best stuff. Now the claw deals 1d4 +2 slashing damage and has the agile and finesse traits. Agile reduces multiple attack penalty, which means the follow-up attacks are only at a +2 and -2. Finesse means you can use your dex for calculating attack rolls instead of strength. Strength still applies for damage, but it's +6 all the way down, so that seems to be less relevant for enemies here and more relevant for PCs. Finally, we have the short bow, 1d6 damage flat. No mods on range weapons most of the time, and a range increment of 60 feet, penalties beyond that. Reload 0, meaning it takes no actions to draw more ammo, and deadly D10, which means on crits you deal an additional damage, D10s in this case, equal to the number of weapon damage dice, so just 1d10 here. So, they can attack at range quite well, they can attack up close, scimitar followed by claw for the best chance of hitting twice and dealing most damage. But there's still a little bit more. There are some skeleton abilities that can also be added. Monster Core says most skeletons have one of these abilities, and if you give a skeleton more, you might want to increase the level and its statistics a little bit. We have Bloody, which means a coating of blood gives the skeleton fast healing equal to its level. Collapse, which is a reaction triggered by the skeleton being critically hit, the effect being that the skeleton collapses into a pile of bones, and the attack deals only normal damage. The skeleton can reform in a standing position as an action, but until it does, it is immobilized and off guard. Explosive Death. When the skeleton is destroyed, its bones shatter and explode, and adjacent creatures take 1d6 damage per 2 levels, a minimum of 1d6, with a basic reflex save against the moderate spell DC of the skeleton's level. And Screaming Skull, which takes 2 actions and has the auditory, emotion, fear and mental traits. The skeleton removes its skull and throws it, making a Jaws attack with a range of 20 feet, and it then attempts to demoralize each foe within 10 feet of its target. The head bounces, rolls or even flies back, returning to the skeleton at the start of its next turn, and the skeleton is blind until then. It's quite a fun one. And that's how we can give our skeletons a few extra quirks. Skeletons like these are very versatile. We can outfit them with other weapons to give them different damage profiles, give them better armor or shields to increase their staying power, and utilize their abilities to throw some more surprises at our PCs. You could construct an adventuring party reanimated by the necromancer who killed them, or a bunch of miners with picks who dug too deep and released an ancient curse that kills those around it and creates thralls from the corpses. Or maybe they aren't necrotic, some tweaks to the traits needed here perhaps, but they've been reanimated by some kind of plant or vine, or some kind of flower, and fire is what has to be used to stop them attacking instead of holy magics and bludgeoning. We will be covering many more skeletons in this list down the line, so we'll be leaving this one here. How have you used a skeleton guard in your games? And was it to guard anything? Let me know down in the comments below. But that's all for today, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.